Hello, everybody. I'm here. Don't mind the shirt. I'm actually getting ready to go see Man of Steel in about an hour and a half. So hopefully the movie turns out well. It would be nice to actually have a good Superman movie because there hasn't been one since 2, and that came out in, what, 1980, 1981, something like that. So it's been a while since we've had a good Superman movie, so hopefully this one turns out well. I'm hearing mixed things about it early on. Critics seem to be really split on it, but hopefully I'll accept mediocre at this point, considering all the disappointment and how disappointing Superman Returns was. It's like, all right, I will accept average and, like, okay. Can you give me something watchable? Okay, let's baby steps in the right direction. I'll take that. But anyway, I did want to get this wrestling video out there because I have a lot of responses I want to do to some of the television programming that's been out there this week. We have Payback this Sunday, but I'm not going to do a full-fledged preview of it. All I'll say about it is that I'm impressed that the WWE actually has a full card for it, especially considering it feels like Extreme Rules was only like 2 weeks ago. I mean, this one, it seemed like there was a lot of time in between Extreme Rules and Payback, or between WrestleMania and Extreme Rules. And then, Extreme Rules to Payback, it felt like Extreme Rules was like yesterday. So, in that time, I'm actually impressed that the WWE was actually able to get a 7-match card set before the pay-per-view, and they've actually gotten better about that. One of my criticisms of the WWE in the last few years was their pay-per-views, they'd have like 4 or 5 matches set, and then the rest of it would just be bonus matches that they would throw on there the day of the show. And it really gave off the impression of unorganization, lack of planning, and like they were basically just making this shit up as they went along, kind of like WCW in its dying days. And the really bad one I remember was the one that, I forget the name of the show, but it was the one that opened up with the Battle Royal halfway in progress, and I'm like, what the hell what is this? It's like, welcome to the pay-per-view, the pre-show Battle Royal is still going, and I'm like, wait, what? I'm so confused, and that show was kind of a mess. And, a lot of stuff like that was going on, so it's nice that they actually got a handle on it, and it's like, look, we can make a full card once a month. It's just 7 or 8 matches that you can throw one bonus match out there, fine, but they at least got 7 matches out there, and that should be able to fill up an entire pay-per-view. The card, it's not awful, it's not that great either. I mean, it's basically kind of the same old story. It's like, all right, I want to see the Shield, and I want to see Daniel Bryan. That's about it. It's like, okay, Shield, Daniel Bryan, okay, whatever. I'll watch it for that because they're really the main reasons I'm watching WWE these days. I have to make a Bound for Glory series video at some point because last night on Impact, I actually thought Impact was solid last night. It was very basic, but it was basically like, okay, we're gonna finalize the Bound for Glory series, guys, and I'm like, okay, I like that guys actually have to win matches to get into the series, so that's fine. And the AJ Angle match was pretty good, although I fucking called it. AJ's gonna get his win back over Angle in the Bound for Glory series so that they balance out 50-50. I wanted to steal that clip from DBZ Abridged with Mr. Popo going, called it, right after Krillin gets killed by Frieza. As I totally wanted to use that clip because I was like, I know that's why AJ lost at the pay-per-view. It's like, it has to balance out 50-50, and Angle's going to put him over in the Bound for Glory series, then AJ has to lose the pay-per-view match. I'm like, yep, that's how that shit works. Forget the fact that AJ's the more interesting character right now, and the one that they clearly have a plan for and a direction for. But no, it's just, no, he can't win 2 straight over Angle. No, can't have that. That would be crazy. Give him momentum? What? Fucking nuts. And I also have some comments I want to make about the obvious Kurt Angle versus Quentin Rampage Jackson match that they want to do at Bound for Glory. But I'll get to that at a different time, probably sometime next week. I'll do a Payback review first, and then I'll probably get to the Bound for Glory series after that, unless something else big happens during the course of next week. So count on that next week. You'll get a Payback review and a Bound for Glory series video summary, basically just talking about what I think about the series, how it's going right now, and the 12 guys that are involved with it, yada, 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 and all that stuff, with some Angle and Rampage Jackson thrown in as well. But, again, you'll see that next week. What I wanted to get into here was obviously responding to Monday Night Raw this week. And Raw lately has been tolerable, mainly because of the Shield and Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is without question the best babyface in the WWE right now, and I'm just fearful that they're going to ruin that by turning him heel. But for right now, it's like, look, I'm enjoying it for right now, so I'll be happy for now. That's kind of been my standing with Raw lately, where it's just like, look, Shield and Daniel Bryan, they're pretty awesome, aren't they? Shield and Daniel Bryan, Shield and Daniel Bryan. The Shield and Daniel Bryan 3-hour spectacular. That's what they should rename it. And this week, they were the saving grace of the show, because the other two matches, like, what was it? I don't even remember what it was. Ambrose versus somebody. I don't remember. Was it Ambrose versus Kane and I think it was Roman Reigns versus Orton, I think. I'm not entirely sure on that. Both matches were kind of like, dull, especially the Orton-Roman Reigns match. And I don't think that reflects on Reigns so much. I think it's like, well, yeah, babyface Orton is really boring and formulaic and sleepwalking paint by number style of match. So that's Randy Orton. Those matches weren't that great. But the Daniel Bryan Seth Rollins match was really, really, really good. So, and again, Daniel Bryan just continues to just win me over more and more as this great underdog babyface. And Seth Rollins, I mean, that's basically a Ring of Honor main event match that you saw on Raw for like 20 minutes. So all the Ring of Honor fans, I'm sure, felt happy for that they saw their guys and guys that they had every right to back. These aren't guys like Roderick Strong who I look at them and I go, really? That's one of the internet's favorites? But no, Daniel Bryan has always been somebody that I've seen. It's like, look, at the very least, I'm not sure if he'd work as a main eventer. I didn't know. Obviously, this character he has now is working great. But coming out of Ring of Honor, I was always like, I'm not sure about his character. But as a worker, absolutely, he could be in the WWE, no question. And Tyler Black, to me, was like the last guy Ring of Honor had that I really got excited about as like a hot prospect. So to see those two guys go out there and have a really good match on Monday Night Raw, I thought was really, really cool. So they were the saving grace of the show. The rest of the show was lifeless and boring and just dragged on forever. It was one of those shows where the 3 hours, I totally felt it. It was just, oh God, I'm sitting there like, why can't this show just end? End the show. Oh my God, it was so boring. And the main knock I have on it, aside from the really awkward opening with Triple H and Curtis Axel, which when Triple H writes his own crap, it's just awful. It's just terrible. But the McMahon family drama. And that was like the major focus of the show, with McMahon and Triple H basically stealing Team Hell No's bit, which, okay, good for you. I always notice that about Triple H sometimes. Whenever somebody does something, he'll try and copy it to prove that he can do it himself. Like the concussion angle is like, oh, well, Shawn did it, so I can do it. Eddie Guerrero, I remember when Eddie turned heel in 2005, and he would cut these like, they would darken the arena, and he would cut this promo, this really creepy promo. And, I know that the custody battle over Dominic was not exactly the most stellar angle ever, but Eddie giving those really creepy promos really helped sell it. And it was like, wow, Eddie can really go on the mic. And I'll be damned if like a week later Triple H wasn't trying to do the same thing on Monday Night Raw, except when he did it, it was excruciatingly boring. So yeah, I always notice more room to bash Triple H. He steals people's acts and tries to prove, like, hey, I can do that too. But whatever. Yeah, they totally stole Team Hell No's bit there. But the McMahon family drama, you got Stephanie running around who's like, I forgot how bad of an actress she can be. I mean, people don't remember back in the Attitude Era, especially when she first turned heel, how, like, awful she could be as an actress. I mean, her best services were as, like, a visual to accompany Triple H. That's how she worked best. But whenever she actually tried to deliver dialogue and act, it was awful and painfully so. And it was here on this show. She was awful. Just, oh my God. I was like, I'm not convinced at all by what you're trying to say. And your crocodile tears aren't selling me at all whatsoever. It's just, it was so bad. It was one of those things that, oh yeah, I forgot. She's shitty at this. But there was that. But just the whole idea that this whole show needs to be focused around the McMahon family. And there's always going to be room for the McMahon family drama. And I just got to sit here and think, it's like, for all the things that I'm sick of in wrestling, like the NWO ripoffs. We got the Main Event Mafia coming back in TNA. Hooray! Because that's a... but whatever. You got the NWO ripoffs. You got the Evil Boss, which I am so goddamn sick and tired of. I could do without an authority figure being a focus on the show forever, because it's been played to fucking death. And so yeah, Evil Boss is sick of that. For all the things that I'm sick of and all the cliches that I'm sick of, the McMahon family drama is just old. It's old, it's tired, it's stale. There's no future to get from it. There's no new material to go with it. It's just boring. I don't care. They're the most dysfunctional family in America. Fine, great. I don't care. I don't care anymore. This was going on in 2000. It was going on in 99. I remember when Vince was the greater power, and they did that whole reveal, so you can count that. And that actually worked, because, we hadn't, had it forced down our throats for a decade. But I remember when it got really bad was the invasion angle. And that's what a lot of people who are critical of the invasion angle, that's what they go to when they say that the angle was bad. It's like, look, for those of us that grew up during the Monday Night Wars period, we had pictures in our head of what a cross-promotional event between WWF and WCW would be like. I mean, go into any middle school in 1997 or 1998, you'll have kids passing around dream cards. I'm dead serious. It was because wrestling was the hot shit back then. And kids would be passing around dream cards, and like, if it were WWF versus WCW, here's what I would like to see, and kids getting into arguments over who should go over in certain matches. And of course, I'm the guy sitting there, it's like, kids would be like, hey, Patrick, look at my dream card, and I'd be like, yeah, you don't have Goldberg and Austin or Sting and Undertaker. Go fuck off. I didn't really say that, but I didn't start cussing really until I was late into my teens. But whatever. Yeah, it's like any WCW, WWF dream card has to have Goldberg and Austin and Sting and Undertaker. That's how that works. You can fill in the rest of the blanks later, but those are the two big matches that you need to get out of it. And we had all these pictures in our head, and would the NWO be a part of it? Would DX be a part of it? And all this other stuff. And the invasion angle, what it ended up amounting to was McMahon family drama. And that was it. The WCW guys they got, not necessarily untalented guys like Lance Storm and Mike Awesome. I was always a big fan of Mike Awesome. But they were not the guys that were the centerpieces of WCW when WCW was hot. And those are the guys they needed to get to really make the angle work. But even if they just wanted to push young guys that were unrecognized and just push a young blood type of stable against the WWF, putting the McMahons in charge just put the focus on them. And the biggest insult was when they brought ECW on board. They have Paul Heyman under contract, and at the end of the show they're like, nope, Stephanie McMahon owns it. Why? You have Paul Heyman. It's like, all right, Shane McMahon I'll go with because, okay, you didn't have Bischoff yet. Okay, fine. You have Paul Heyman. You don't need Stephanie to be in charge of ECW. And that was where the McMahon family drama really started to get old. Actually, I would even go further back and say maybe WrestleMania 2000 when Vince turned heel. That was when I was like, okay, starting to get a little sick of this. But yeah, the invasion angle was when it got really bad. Actually, if it were up to me, I probably would have never written Vince McMahon onto a show again after the first blood match between Steve Austin and Undertaker in '99. Once Vince was written out, I'd have been like, "Yep, that's over. It's over. We got as much as we could out of this character. Let's just keep going from there and just try to come up with new things because the Evil Boss thing had played out because Austin McMahon had played out by that point. So, and I'm not saying they didn't get some good stuff out of Vince in between. Like some of the stuff with Hogan was pretty good. Most of it was painful. Like, some of the stuff with Shawn was really bad. Like, that was another one, the feud between DX and the McMahons. That was one that went on forever. It just wouldn't end. It was just boring. And the matches got progressively boring because of it. There was the illegitimate son angle in 2007 after Vince blew himself up, which was funny. I will say that. The funny thing about that show is that it was one of those 3-hour Raw specials, and it was a really boring show. It was the draft show, and it was a really boring show. So I was kind of like, whatever, show's over. I'll flip it off. And then like 5 minutes later, I get a call from a friend. He's laughing his ass off. He's like, dude, Vince McMahon blew himself up. His car just went poof, blew up. And I was like, what? They really did that? And I sat through 2 hours and 58 minutes of the most boring show ever. I missed the last 5 minutes, and I see the funniest thing ever where Vince's car blows up. That's fine. Okay. Yeah, bad timing on my part. But they always work all these angles and these family dramas and all this other stuff around the McMahon family, and it's just boring. I don't get what is there to be gained from Triple H feuding with Vince at this point, and having arguments with Vince over his health. I mean, what? Who cares? I don't fucking care anymore about the McMahon family and their dramas and their fucking problems, and it's just old. It's old hat. It's been going on since the Attitude Era. I don't care anymore. Come up with something different. It's the same. Like I said, it's the same thing as the NWO. It's the same thing as John Cena. I'll throw John Cena in there because it's like, how many times can I watch John Cena, fight the monster and then go over at the pay-per-view and be like, I overcame the odds, when you really didn't because you win all the time, so it's boring. And he's like an 11 or 13, I mean, if you count the world title and the WWE title together, I think he's like a 13-time fucking champion, but it's just boring and it's so overplayed, and every time, even when they give them a break for a year or two, whenever they work the McMahons in, I just go, oh god, here we go, because this is what it's going to be for the next 4 or 5 months, because that's what we need for whatever reason. I just don't care anymore. I cannot be bothered to give a shit. And if they wanted to freshen up Triple H or give him something to really revitalize him and give him something a little bit more fresh, this is not going to do it. Attaching him with the McMahons is not going to do it. It's old, it's boring, come up with something new. Could you imagine, I'm trying to think, could you imagine if Hulkamania was still going in like 98? I mean, try to imagine that. Try to imagine if Red and Yellow Hulk Hogan was still going. No, the NWO never happened. Let's say Hogan never left the WWF. And let's say the Red and Yellow Hulk Hogan was still going in like 97, 98. Wouldn't you be just groaning? I don't know. It's just they never know how to fully move away from something or how to like fully move past the past, I guess. They keep recycling the same shit over and over again. And the only times the McMahons have ever really worked are when it's used to, like, create a new star, like CM Punk. Like, okay, the Summer of Punk stuff in 2011, it was good until Punk came back, and then everything just slowly fell apart from there. But initially it was really good, because it was like, oh my god, you created this new hot character in CM Punk who's like this rebel that's trying to tear down the company and humiliate Vince McMahon in a way he never fathomed. It's like, okay, this is interesting, but for the most part, it just goes around, it's the same. And I'm sure the logic here is, oh, well, we're putting Curtis Axel over. And it's like, not really. He's kind of a joke. I mean, people are already calling him the Count-Out King, and I heard a lot of jokes that his gimmick was ruined because he won by DQ or whatever, and won by forfeit here. It's like, oh, Count-Out gimmick ruined. I don't think Axel's really like. He's not CM Punk. Let's just say that he's not like. I'm not talking from a talent perspective. I'm talking from like a character perspective. Like once Punk got onto that Summer of Punk run with the pipe bomb promo, it was like, oh my god, hottest character in wrestling. Curtis Axel, he's just, they could probably replace him with somebody else tomorrow and I wouldn't notice. It was like, he's one of those guys. It's like, yeah, they've got a boner for him now for whatever reason, but whatever. I don't see that amounting to much unless Vince wants it to, and he'll put a world title on him just for the sake of it. But I'm not overly impressed. He's not doing much to really win me over in terms of like his mic work or him as a character. He's just like the guy hanging around with Paul Heyman, and he's not enough of an identity unto himself. Now Brock Lesnar, it works because Brock Lesnar has plenty of things associated with him, from his UFC background to his amateur background to the fact that he looks like a fucking monster to the fact that he kills people left and right. That makes him stand out to where Paul Heyman adds to it. Okay, Paul Heyman can be the mouthpiece. Brock Lesnar is just the monster, the silent killer. Curtis Axel, he's just a guy, basically. And whenever they let him talk, it's like, all right, dude, they gave you Paul Heyman for a reason. Don't talk and try to come up with something else. But whatever. The McMahons are just boring, and whenever they make it onto TV, I just groan. And it really hurt Raw this week because Raw was a bore. It was really... I can't stress how boring the show was. Outside of the Daniel Bryan Seth Rollins match, which was awesome. That was a very good match. But again, that's to be expected at this point. I feel like every time I talk about WWE... every time I talk about Monday Night Raw, I'm like, well, Daniel Bryan and The Shield, they had a really good match, and it's like I feel like I'm just repeating myself now, but it is what it is. Daniel Bryan and the Shield are the stars of WWE right now, and then CM Punk's coming back this Sunday, which that's the match I'm looking forward to the most at Payback. Because I think with the Chicago crowd and CM Punk coming back, I think they're going to be red hot, and I think Punk and Jericho can work really well together in that kind of atmosphere. So that's all I got for now. All of y'all, enjoy Payback. I'll have a review for you sometime early next week, and hopefully I enjoy Man of Steel. So hopefully I'm not depressed when you see me next. And I'll have the Bound for Glory series video sometime at the end of the week next week, unless something else big comes up and that warrants more attention for some reason. But that's all I have for now. Until then, y'all have a good weekend.